Okay, so we're live once again. Welcome, entrepreneurs. My name is Mauricio Garcia. I want to welcome you to this final episode of this week's podcast. And boy, do we have a treat for you today, because we're going to uncover more secrets of what it takes to really build something big. And as always, I'm joined by my mentor, my friend, my partner, Mr. Hubert Humphrey. How are you, Hubert? Can you hear me, sir?
I can. Great to be with you. What a great week it's been thus far. Can't wait for our show today.
Absolutely. Well, same over here. Obviously, we have shared with our listeners throughout various podcasts a little bit of the history, what you've done in the past. You built two multi-billion-dollar market cap companies, building a third one, applying some of the principles that are evergreen, I would say, that would work no matter what time you use them, because it revolves around human nature. And there is one phrase I found on your system that says, maybe a phrase or a secret, maybe I should call it, that in order to build something big, in order to build people, to lead people, we've got to seize their imagination and then fuel their dreams. Let's dive deep and elaborate on what you mean by that, because I think this is big.
Oh, it is. We could do a whole week's worth of shows on this subject, because it's really where all these leaders come from. Probably the greatest achievement I can think of in my life is being able to run a system that's allowed me to do that one thing to just literally several thousand people out there, that we've been able to go and seize their imagination and fuel their dreams, and they've achieve things in their life they never dreamt possible until that time. And so when you seize their imagination, the number one way you seize their imagination is by being a do-it-first type leader. And let me give you just an example of a real-life case, and I think this is a whole lot better than a bunch of words. Mm-hmm. I remember one time back in the early stages of my career back in A.L. Williams, we were down at Boca Raton, Florida, at the big Boca Raton Resort and Club, the big multimillionaires resort. And we were having a big meeting there with the company, Art Williams and all the great leaders. We were putting on a big leadership there with a few thousand people. And we were also playing golf out there and everything. And of course, along about that time now, this was probably in 1983 or 4. And I mean, I'm making lots of money, several million a year, big team. We're beating Prudential, so we were starting to really have some monstrous size in our company and in our hierarchy. And I had a lot of great people down there with me that were attending this event. And I had one guy in the cart with me. His name was Jeff Miles. And Jeff was a great guy, just a superhuman being. Him and his family were a great family. And I allowed him to get close enough to me. He'd play golf with me. We'd visit when he'd come to Atlanta, or I'd go out to Utah where he was at. We would visit. And he got to be around me. He got to see what kind of home I lived in. He got to see my family. He got to see how I was as a person, as a husband, as a father. He just kind of got to watch me, and then he realized, and he watched the principles of. He watched it because he saw all of his peers that we were following this same system that we were using, which was helping us build these system leaders, and which led to these system teams being developed. And he watched all that. And it seized his imagination, because he was able to get close enough to the fire to feel the heat, to see it. And he told me that many times, and told many other people. Say, listen, I was around Hubert and other leaders, and I was able to they captured my imagination by letting me into the world of how they were being successful. And I realized that I could now do what they did. Once I realized that how they were, that people just like me could be transformed and could then go out and be successful, it caused him to realize that Hubert's doing it, I can do it. And instead of me just being some hero up on some pedestal, I became a hero that he now could emulate, that he could copy. And that was the first step. And then I continued to do it. I didn't just sit there and become a lazy leader, clipping my coupons, just overriding him. I kept building. He saw me going wide. He saw me going deep. He saw me building a lot of other people. And it motivated him to to know he could get bigger. And the next thing you know, he's making 100,000. He's making $1 million. He's making a couple of million. So he's growing, but he's following a leader that's growing. And we keep fueling the dreams all I was doing was just running the system and getting more and more people to run the system. And we were running the system better and better and better and getting more and more people doing it. It's all I was ever doing, but it provided me with a lifestyle and the dreams to make my dreams come true. And see, he subsequently his imagination was seized by all of that. And then the fueling of it was just a continued seeing that I'm dreaming bigger dreams. I'm achieving bigger dreams. If I can achieve bigger dreams, he can achieve bigger dreams. That was in essence what I did over and over and over again in my business career, right there.
So it's just really paying attention to the people that you are, bringing into your business, to let them know that they too can change, that they too can achieve their dreams. I'll tell you from a personal experience. Many years back, I was kind of like, I even felt like I didn't have it in me to really change. Kind of like I was born to just be average and ordinary, and I couldn't really change from there. Why was I thinking that way? I don't know. Let's not get into that just right now. But there's a lot of people maybe right now that have been stuck in there, and they haven't really found a leader that can seize their imagination, right? And so that's what you're talking about, is bringing them, letting them know, showing them the way that an average and ordinary person can become extraordinary. And I think there's a quote in your system. I don't know if you remember it word for word, but there's something there. I'm gonna take a stab at it. That one of the best kept secrets in the world is that an average and ordinary person can actually become extraordinary. Or maybe you say it a different way, but something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it really captured my attention and said, I can do it. And like me, there's probably millions and millions of people.
Well, you're hitting right on the main thing. But listen, most everybody when we're born, everybody that's born has been created. I just believe it's a part of the divine plan of our Heavenly Father when He creates us on this earth. Part of the test is us using our free agency to choose right decisions and overcome the default position. Our emotional system, if we just are born and don't learn anything and don't see anything and don't have our vision stretched, we just go through life sort of average and ordinary. That's what the default position is. Mm-hmm. It's up to us to overcome that. And a lot of people struggle with that. The fastest way to overcome that is do what you just said, being able to get around somebody that's going to cause you to all of a sudden realize that, hey, listen, if I can do it, you can do it. Man, this is a lot easier than you think you can do it. In fact, the message that we built A.L. Williams by, especially with Art Williams' leadership, we built A.L. Williams by and all of our other companies was this: we just bombarded people. Say, listen, we don't. In fact, Art even put a moratorium out the first 3 or 4 years in A.L. Williams that if you were a financial professional and had an insurance license with experience, you couldn't join our company for the first 3 or 4 years because he only wanted greenies. Now, what message does that tell greenies? It tells greenies that, listen, the people that got the most chance to succeed in our business are you people who are new, right, with no experience. You got more chance to succeed. That guy's got all the bad habits, and you are green and growing. And so it started at birth in our business model, and we've used it all these many years, making brand new people feel like, well, gee, this is something that I'm highly qualified for this business because I'm ignorant. I don't know anything about anything. Man, am I highly trained. So here I am. So that gave people a lot of confidence. That's why so many of them took root, more than any other company I've ever seen. And then subsequently in our next company, in our company today, we're bringing tons of people. Now, we still bring people in today that have experience, but we kind of try to dumb them down a little bit real quick, and we try to get them converted to our system because that's the main reason why and the people who've got experience that can come in and act like a new person. If you got a lot of experience but can come in and act like a brand new person, man, you got a great advantage because you're now going to have the newness of the thought and newness of ambition, and you're teachable, but you got all that experience. You can kind of supercharge you. So anyway, the bottom line of all that is that people just need somebody to convey to them that, man, people like you can do this thing. You don't have to know a whole lot. Our system is going to save you from yourself. That quote you were talking about a while ago was a quote from the E-Myth about, it says, for ordinary people to do extraordinary things, a system or a way of doing things is required to compensate. And when people realize that there's a system, that I don't have to know it all, it's all over here in this system and it's going to compensate, that encourages, it encouraged me. I didn't know a lot about the industry. I didn't want to get licensed. I didn't want to sell insurance. I didn't know all this stuff. But instead of focusing on what I didn't know, which will paralyze you, I focused on the things that I did know. I did know that I want to be somebody. I did know that I want to make more money. I did know that the system and art and all of them were going to help me do it. And I focused on that. And then when I had a little success, I said, man, if I can have that kind of success, I can have more success, and I can have more success. And it was that simple thing that took a greenie like me to build something great. Anyway, I'm just saying that's the key. It says somebody has got to cause you to believe that, hey, listen, this is for people like you. You can do this. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you look at the Think and Grow Rich, where he's got this page 36, and there are about 6 ways to turn your desires into gold. It's a great goal setting system. He said step number 4. Now that you've got your plan, where it's got you got a clear, concise mental picture of what you want, the price you're willing to pay, the date by which you've got to attain it. You got all that plan. And he says in number 4, step 4. Now that you've got all that plan laid out, you must begin at once, whether you're ready or not. So that kind of tells you the same thing. Even Napoleon Hill, as he studied all these success people, they didn't wait. They didn't wait till they knew everything. You just know enough that you're on the right track, you're in the right flow. Let's go. And that takes leadership to encourage you to do that. Most people will get paralyzed because they're fearful of things that they don't know, and they're hesitant to take a step. But if you've got a system where people kind of encourage you and they're motivated and incented to help you, and you know that they took those steps, those blind leaps of faith, and it's following a system that's predictable, it saves you from yourself. And next thing you know, we have seized their imagination, and they got a chance to go.
And I see it all over. And I think if people just look around, they will see that all great entrepreneurs, great leaders are excellent at capturing the imagination of people and what they do. One of the things that captured my imagination was, again, something I read on one of your books, is that an ordinary person can become a millionaire. And because for some people, especially there's starting in business, or those that are not yet in business, we're still stuck in a job, they maybe feel that they can't be millionaires, that stuff is not for them, And so I think the message here is, how can we capture the imaginations of people to show them there is this promised land, that there is this place where they can also arrive at and then fuel their dreams. I see that the foundation of everything you've done in the past, it's really been about creating the environment, the events, big events to fuel people's dreams, the recognitions and the incomes. Everything is built around to do that. And that is something I think it's important to elaborate on, because it's part of being able to fuel their dreams on any team that you're building, or teams that people are building right now.
Well, even when you're just starting out, just being able to be a person that encourages new people. Remember now, the trigger mechanism to seizing a dream, an imagination, the trigger mechanism for anybody is to cause them to think that they could possibly do what you want them to do. Mm-hmm. You loan them your belief in them because they don't have any belief in themselves. And if that's enough to move them, you've started the success process. That's the essence of recruiting. That's the essence of selling the dream. That's the essence of seizing their imagination and getting them going there. And then what you've got to do is just make sure that you're pulling them into a predictable system that takes average and ordinary people and turning them into successful people. There was a great book written one time called about the millionaire next door. You might have read that book, and that's what we're doing. We're building millionaires next door all over the country, all over the world. That's everybody can do it. It's just if they've got somebody. If somebody contacts you that were with our company, I don't care what you think about them or whatever, you ought to listen to them, because it might be the message that would change your life forever. So that's how average and ordinary people become extraordinary. They become the millionaires, and they become the successful people in business, because somebody in higher ground, in the right business with the right model, the right system, somehow reached them and convinced them that they too could do it, and then mentored them along the way. That's the whole process.
And to wrap it up, if you don't believe me, let me tell you a story about a railroad conductor that was stuck in there for a decade and a half, 15, 17 years. And then he went to a meeting when somebody is capturing his imagination that even though he was stuck at the railroad, he could make $100,000 a year. And this is, in the 1970s, 1980s. And that imagination, that moment created a spark that resulted in him going out there and bringing in a system and implementing strategies that built the two largest, distributors of financial services, of independent writers of it, and is now building a third company. And that man is Hubert Humphrey. Somebody captured his imagination, right, Hubert?
Yeah, absolutely.
100,000. That was the spark that ignited probably a huge fire that hasn't been able to be controlled to this day.
Do you know where the first spark was? A little part-timer who didn't even know what he was talking about, had only been working 3 or 4 weeks, had just had a little temporary license and never even really got a permanent license yet, hadn't been really trained. He happened to be a friend of our family, went to church. He comes by to see me because I was doing a favor for his dad. I said, I'll talk to him. He comes by, he talks to him, he stumbles forward, happens to tell me a little concept that made a little bit of sense. He analyzes, takes my policies, somebody helps him. He comes back with a whole plan where I can get 2 or 3 times the coverage for half the money, invest the difference, and I was impressed. So that seized a little bit of my imagination. Mm-hmm. But then I noticed he had changed. He had different looking coat. His hair was cut. He had changed his old beat up car. He had a little car that would run. And I was looking at him. He looked different. And I said, "How you doing in this thing?" Because he looked different. He said, "Well, I'm doing good, man." I come to find out that he'd made. The guy had made $6,500 in his first 5 or 6 weeks doing this. Now, you got to understand, this was in 1978. That's a lot of money now. And this guy couldn't even walk and chew gum at the same time. And you talk about seizing my imagination. He seized everything. I mean, I was just, it was the biggest wake-up call I've ever had. Just a little guy who didn't know what he was doing accidentally seized my imagination. Then when I got in, and about 4 or 5 days later, Art Williams was in this meeting, and Art's sitting there telling all of us people, there wasn't but about 10 or 12 of us in the room, and he said, "Listen, guys, I want to help you guys make money. I'm going to show you guys how to make $100,000 a year." You talking about, now my imagination was shot then. I mean, he had me forever. If it was robbing banks, he could just give me a mask and gun and point me. I was going to go do it because I wanted to get away from the railroad, and this man seized my imagination. Yeah. So those are the types of things that happen in your life. Maybe today we might be seizing the imaginations, Mauricio, of a few people out there today that have said, well, these guys are pretty convincing. They talk about maybe I can do. I ought to go try something, or maybe try what they're doing. So that's how it is when you cause people to feel that first feeling. And even when people are climbing up the ladder, I've got guys that have climbed up pretty big organizations, making $1 million a year, never dreamt they could make more than that because they never dreamt they could get there. And next thing you know, I'm up there grabbing them by the heart and mind and dragging them up to $2 million, dragging them up to $3 million a year, dragging some of them up to $5, $6, $7 million, because that's because I had to go back in and seize their imagination again. So it's not just a one-time thing. It's a leadership thing that if you're in a business that's got a leadership line and a system and a great opportunity, like all this money, the money moving that we talk about, boy, it's a great time to be in business.
Well, somebody's got to capture the imagination of everybody out there, because the six-figure income, the $100,000, which was really the pinnacle or the income that everybody was trying to reach even before the millionaire, become a 100,000aire, is no longer that big of an income, right? If you factor in cost of living, taxes, all that stuff. So you need to be now generating $1 million. And so hopefully this podcast captures your imagination, and you understand that you have everything in you to accomplish that. You do. And you're hearing from Hubert, who was a, probably you would say, average and ordinary fellow. Average and ordinary guy who just, somebody captured his imagination, and it just exploded all that, everything that he had inside, and went out there and pursued his dreams and accomplished, and helped hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people better their lives in this life, over the last 30, 40 years. So I just want to end it there, Hubert, without forgetting to remind everybody that this podcast is being sponsored by Hegemon Group International, who has the best vehicle, the best system, the best opportunity in America today. You got to check what their proposal is. You got to check out what that opportunity is all about. A 15-minute presentation you can go and check out right now by going to hgiopportunity.com. Again, that is hgiopportunity.com. Hubert, thank you once again, as always, for all this value you bring to the show. Have an awesome weekend, and I can't wait to talk to you next weekend, sir. Next week, I should say.
See you then. Great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms, as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.